Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo.
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
Che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning everyone and welcome. Please take your seats.
Ecco. Siamo pronti? Spero che abbiate preso tutti il caffè.
Are you ready? Did you have your morning coffee? Two important things. We came to the meeting 2 years ago to present some ideas, some projects. And we are here today once again to tell you what happened over the past 2 years thanks to the cooperation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the partners to put into practice the ideas we talked about 2 years ago. We have a great panel with the presence of the Vice Minister. I will briefly introduce our panelists. So we have Edmondo Cirielli, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation since December 2022 in the Meloni government. He has many university degrees. He's a member of parliament since 2001. He deals with development cooperation, food safety, and relations with Africa. An applause to the deputy minister who is with us today. Thank you for being here. Then we have two representatives of the coffee industry in Africa, because this is our main topic. We have Primus, Director General of the Tanzania Coffee Board. He is an international expert of the coffee sector. He was president of the Project Committee of International Coffee Organization and of the first group of people who had a master in coffee economy. Sitting next to him, Henry Kinyua, advisor on crops and value chains at the Presidential Economic Transformation Secretariat in Kenya. He's an expert of agricultural policies, and he is the coordinator of the program of the Ministry of Affairs in Kenya. Then I have my friend Chiara from UNIDO, the organization of the UN for industrial development since 2015. She works with different African countries, and she deals with the program for the development of skills and training centers in the coffee sector. Sitting on the opposite side, we have someone who deals with research, development, and training, Giacomo Ciambotti, researcher of the Cattolica University. responsible for the research department of A4 Impact Foundation. I'm coordinator of the SMGB Master. Thank you, Giacomo, for being here. Last but not least, we have Mario Bruscino, Vice President of the Italian Coffee Committee, of the Italian Food Union, and he is also the Green Coffee Purchasing Manager for the Borbone coffee brand. And he coordinates many different sustainability projects. So we have a very distinguished panel. What are we going to talk about? We would like MAECI and UNIDO to thank MAECI and UNIDO for organizing this event. Even if technology and the financial aspects are at the heart for the development of a sector that is crucial for so many people, but the most important thing is training in this sector. So what are we all doing in order to improve the skills of millions of coffee producers and all the people who work in the coffee sector? So reinforcing new generations. This is the crucial aspect which is at the basis of the ACTA program financed by the ministry and carried out by UNIDO at the moment. Why coffee? We have two very important representatives of the coffee sector here with us. Well, over the last 5 years, African coffee, where coffee is produced between Ethiopia and Uganda, we had an increase by 81% between 2016 and 2020. So they're going to talk about their experience, but this is the reason why Africa is so important, and Italy is the main importer of African coffee. From 2016 to 2025, we have had an increase by 68% in imports. Well, the joint public-private effort, international organization, foreign affairs ministries, well, we are all trying to support the supply chain of coffee in Africa, which also has many job opportunities for so many young people in Africa who would otherwise be obliged to leave their countries. So now we really have the pleasure to listen to the Deputy Minister, and he will give us some very important indications and ideas. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Thank you. Thanks to our guests, our panelists. I'd like to say that the Primus Kimaryo, I hope I pronounce it right, the Councillor here in Kinyua, and Chiara Scaraggi, Dr. Ciambotti, Dr. Bruscino, and all the representatives of the Institution of the World of Cooperation. I'd like to thank the General Directorate of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, AICS, and everyone who participated in organizing this event, and the participation of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs to this 47th edition of the Rimini meeting. And I'm really grateful that certain themes and certain topics were chosen. The topic of coffee is a very strategic, important topic, because this is a very important production that was, well, actually born in South America, but is or rather, it was born in Africa and is present in South America. in Africa, despite the quantity produced, this sector cannot give the right contribution to the development of this continent. This is a topic that is really interesting for us because Italy is committed in international cooperation and particularly cooperation with Africa, not only because it is one of the continents that is suffering the most, and it is right in front of Italy, so this can be a great stability, growth and development opportunity for a great trading partner as Africa that has to face great challenges: Islamic terrorism, instability, climate change, new waves of neocolonialism coming from the east this time, so it is threatened in its stability, in its resources, and in its potential. So this is an element of world injustice, but this can also be a threat for Italy and for Europe. And Italy is in the front line thanks to the MATEI plan, supported by Giorgia Meloni. And one of the main aspects of this plan is training. Coffee beans in Africa, nurturing the talent of new generations. This is the title of today's event because we believe that helping the new generations is the winning move to help so many countries and continents, specifically Africa, that has a great potential in terms of future generations. So this, well, why do we have a project on coffee? Because it can involve new African generation who started to abandon the rural culture, abandoning rural areas that could be put to production and that are extremely important for a continent where a lot of people are not self-sufficient in terms of food. There are many parts of the land that are abandoned. 60% of arable land in the world are in Africa. So the theme of agriculture in Africa is a global topic in terms of sustainability in the future. Coffee is important also from the economic point of view for Italy. So we managed to involve the private sector in a cooperation intervention in terms of international cooperation. It's not a profit-targeted intervention. It is rather an intervention targeted at training, thanks to UNIDO, this UN organization that is really important in our cooperation. We have at the moment 5 pilot countries participating in our projects. We intervened with substantial funding for UNIDO. Everyone is playing their part. So this is in line with the idea of partnership of the MATEI plan. It is shared and carried out together with our African partner countries. So this is not something that has an approach from it's not an imposition to our African partners. So we do not want to just help them. We want to help them grow. We want to sustain the future generations to guarantee the growth of a continent that is very close to us. So our coffee strategy aims at intervening also on another important topic for the future, that of climate change. So investing in cultivations that have this role to play in abandoned regions. So this is an important element. And research, innovation are also at the center of our actions. as is the involvement of young Italian entrepreneurs who want to participate in this. It is a fundamental challenge for our future, and Italy, the Italian government, is really working to overcome this challenge. We are concretely creating training centers in the participating countries, thanks to UNIDO and thanks to our partner countries, and thanks to the fundings that come from Italy. So thanks to the Italian people, to our society, and to our positive solidarity. And I would like to conclude by saying that we are optimistic. Italian people are optimistic by nature, but we are optimistic because we really see new opportunities for African countries. They are self-aware, and they want to reinforce their sovereignty with economic power, political stability, and a transparent partnership that reinforces friendship based on mutual respect and on a coherent behavior without any imposition on the part of the donors. And this is exactly what our Premier Giorgia Meloni wanted in launching the MATEI plan. We are starting to see the results. At the beginning, we were told there were not so many resources. Then we actually mobilized the banking sector, the private sector. We managed to network all the different actions and all the different things Italians do in Italy. We have organizations, for instance, the organization led by Don Quante, who was here today. So, well, we really have had enormous results. Also, from the political point of view, Giorgia Meloni was invited to the assembly of the government, the head of government of the African Union in Addis Ababa at the beginning of the year. I went with her, but there is also a new awareness. The global gateway of the European Union has sustained the flagship projects of the Italian government. The G7 supported the MATEI plan, and we are participating to the Lobito corridor, which will connect the two shores of the two oceans in Africa, and is a great stability and development opportunity. Italy plays a fundamental role in putting Africa at the top of the world agenda. We managed to do this, and I think we now have to continue working in the same directions. And events like this one actually confirm that we are doing the right thing. Thank you. Thank you. I think, what the Deputy Minister said was extremely important. And now, to nurturing talents and investing in young people is fundamental. So, now we have the opportunity to listen to those who actually produce the coffee we drink every day. First, we have a short video on what the Deputy Minister was saying on these training centers that were created, starting from Ethiopia. Unfortunately, the representative of Ethiopia didn't manage to come and be here with us, but from this short video clip, we can see what is being done concretely in Ethiopia and also in other countries.
Dietro ogni filiera.
Behind every supply chain, there are people, and behind the people, there is a resource. So this is where the ACT Coffee program finds its challenge. The coffee training centers, they're not just training centers. They are skill hubs where people learn to know coffee from the beans, from the roasting, the cupping, and the barista.
Philly Coffee
I am one of the first trainers at the CTC, Coffee and Tea Training Center. I've been among the first barista trainees. There should be a very big trust in the youth for the authority to give us this chance and to believe in us.
Sono spazi che uniscono.
These are places that put together technical training, applied research, and dialogue with the industry. Professionals, producers, students meet in these places, and knowledge becomes a common heritage.
Skill, especially in coffee, how to add value on coffee. So we are now working with so much experience and exposure. So I really want to thank the Italian corporation, Ethiopian Coffee and Tea Authority, and also the UNIDO.
Il primo centro.
The first center is in Addis Ababa, and then in Jimma, in the coffee production area of Ethiopia. The new centers will be created in Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, and Uganda. 5 countries, one vision: to invest in people. Well, I believe this is really representative of what is happening. People who went to Ethiopia before and after the creation of this center can really see the impact this hub has. And now, well, let's hear it from the coffee producers. We will start with Primus from the Tanzania Coffee Board. You have the floor. Tanzania wants to double the production by 2030. So what are the main difficulties that your country that produces coffee encounters to have the right quality, to have access to the market, to have an efficient production? And how can this activity, supported by Italy with the training center that is being built at the moment, help in this pathway? Well, we know each other for a long time. You had the master in economy of coffee. What is your experience? What can you share with us in very concrete terms to let us understand where Tanzania is and where it wants to go? You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Actually, as you said very clearly, Tanzania wants to double production. From the current, we started with a stagnation production of 50,000 metric tons. And now Tanzania produces about 100,000 metric tons. However, the progress has not been as predicted because of a number of factors. One of them is that coffee trees were aging and the farmers were aging. Youth were no longer interested in coffee because at that time, the way we produce coffee was traditional ways inherited from since independence. So the government decided that we reform our policies and the way we do business in the country. So we started with seedling multiplication, 20 million seedlings every year, producing and providing fertilizers, and encouraging youth to participate in agriculture. Agriculture is a business rather than a traditional way of life. And maybe you are aware that about 40% of Tanzania coffee comes to Europe, especially Italy and Germany. So these are the very important countries for the livelihood of Tanzania coffee farmers. 90% of Tanzania coffee comes from smallholder farmers, with an average member of 6 people. So a cup of coffee enjoyed in Italy actually has got a direct impact for a family numbers close to 500,000 Tanzanians. So involvement of youth and women has been a very crucial intervention in bridging the gap of coffee supply and continuity, getting good quality coffee in Italy. So this bridge between Tanzania and Italy, not only connected by coffee trade, but also it's a bridge of economic connection, sustainable connection, and social connection. That's why the training of our youth has got a more importance between Italy and Tanzania, whereby Italians with their technological innovation and the marketing opportunities play a major role in these trainings we have at the moment under UNIDO. We are now going to have even research more on how to mitigate the impacts of climate change under the partnership of our two countries. So now we need to understand that it's only about the matter of trade, as the Honorable Deputy Minister says, but now the relationship between the sweat of our coffee farmers and the beautiful sweet cup and the Italian consumer will have connections on technological support to our youth. We believe that once our youth are educated, get innovations, the problem of rural-urban migration or even migration from one country to another will be hugely minimized. Yeah, to that moment I say thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Grazie Primus. Credo che
Thank you, Primus. You've really touched the most important point. Investing in young people, it is possible to overcome the problems to some extent. The price of coffee today is also an important incentive for those that want to enter the coffee business. Now let's move to Kenya, which is next to Tanzania. And now, Henry, we know that the coffee from Kenya is of high quality and production is very concentrated, but there has been a big effort by the government and the president of Kenya to take this strategic sector and to develop it. And you are behind all this strategy in some way. So how these reforms are taking Kenya's coffee again back to a level of quality of price and efficiency that is important. How can this involve young people? We visited Kenya and we saw this capacity of aggregating. And so the question again here is, what would you expect now? What is this ACT program doing to give support to the government's policy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The most important thing about Kenya, or Kenyan coffee, is that it is produced by about 800,000 households. The size of a household in Kenya, in the rural Kenya, is 5 people. So when you look at that number, it tells you you are dealing with about 4 million people. The population of Kenya is about 50 million. So we have over nearly 10% of the Kenyan population relying on coffee production. If you add the number across the entire value chain from the farm to the export, you see the number goes beyond 8 million. Being that important for the country, President Ruto, when he came to power, one thing he did was to pick coffee as one of the priority value chain, a value chain that will receive all the ultimate priority to make sure that all the areas are addressed. The production and productivity has been going down for quite a while. The government, therefore, looked at the most important part that the government can do. And number one, that's the policy. The policy in place was not very friendly to farmers. These 800 million households, the 4 million farmers producing coffee, are about 70% of the coffee that is produced in Kenya. So the government did three things. One, ensure that the policy through the Coffee Act of 2026 put most of the control in the hands of the farmers and the farmers' cooperative. Today, a Kenyan farmer, smallholder farmer, either directly or through their cooperatives, can produce their own coffee, can pulp their own coffee, can mill their own coffee, can market their own coffee, export their own coffee, and be in control across the chain. Number two was ensuring that the payment that is done to the farmers is done promptly, without delay. So before, coffee that was sold at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, where 80% of the Kenyan coffee is traded, used to take long before it gets to the farmers. The money would be kept by the marketing agent and then later paid to the farmers. With the new reforms, the money immediately is paid in one central account called the Direct Settlement Scheme, or DSS. Through this DSS, coffee farmers are paid within 5 days after trading. This has increased a lot of liquidity to the farmer's pocket and made farmers to continue producing. Thirdly, was also to appreciate that from when coffee is harvested until when it is sold, it takes up to about 3 months. To ensure the farmer is liquid between that process, the government also introduced what the coffee called the Coffee Cherry Advance Revolving Fund, a fund that advances up to 40% equivalent of the final price to the farmer so that they can start using their money before coffee is sold. So all this has brought two things. One thing that also came out very clearly was the coffee farmer was also aging. The same case in Tanzania. We did a study and an average age of the Kenyan farmer was 60 years. So for me, in my mid-50s, I was still too young to be in the coffee sector. So the government looked at how do we make sure we have the youth and majority of the women participating. One is to make sure that the different training centers are harmonized. So through the different MAECI plan, the partnership with UNIDO, we worked with the various universities in Kenya, like Kimaryo University, like the Coffee Research and Training Institute, through Impact to ensure that farmers are able to receive all the training in one centralized area. The second thing also to make sure that this training is done in a centralized area. Through, again, the partnership with the government of Italian government through UNIDO, setting up a coffee training center in one of the central regions, in the Coffee Research and Training Center. This training center now builds on what the training center was doing. Previously, the Coffee Training Center was only providing training from the farm to the market. It was not going into, after the marketing, the issue of barista training, the issue of how to market your coffee, the issue of warehousing of the coffee. And this is what now the Coffee Training Center is, which is very vast in construction and equipping, is going to provide. And then finally also is ensuring that the farmers who are producing the coffee, they have they have all the knowledge on how to utilize all the coffee products. whether it's actually using what you call the circularity economy. Can we get into new products like cascara? The pulp that is produced from the coffee, how can it be dried and made into a new use? How also, to mitigate climate change, do we make sure that pulping is also done in a manner that it uses little water? So when you look forward, when you drink a cup of coffee in Italy, in Europe, or anywhere in the world, you are now directly impacting to about 5 million Kenyans. And this is what we say, it is not aid, it is trade. It is giving farmers a hand up, not a hand out. What a great partnership. Thank you.
Grazie Harry,
Thank you, Harry. We have to remember this point, definitely, because this is not charity. We're talking about developing sustainable economic activities to the advantage of the whole value chain. And now we have Chiara, who is a coffee value chain expert of UNIDO. We've heard of UNIDO a lot here, and I know something about it, but could you please tell us something about it from the other side? We've heard how important this can be for the development of the strategies of coffee in Africa. What's going on concretely? Let's share it with those who are not in Tanzania, not in Ethiopia, not in Kenya. Thank you, Gerardo. Thanks, everybody. In particular, thanks to Deputy Minister Cirielli and MAECI for organizing this event, and for the wonderful dissemination work done with this exhibition, Seeding the Future, which is part of our action areas. I'm happy to be back here 2 years later. Gerardo reminded us that 2 years ago a project was launched, and now we're talking about the results. So we're talking about the new generations of coffee, a topic that is really fundamental for UNIDO. Training and education is a key factor for us because having access to technical skills, entrepreneurship, and managing skills for small entrepreneurs of African coffee determine whether the value of the bean may stay in the origin country or it goes away with the coffee bags. So we are here talking about this, first of all, because we have a story to tell. The programmatic framework with the ACT program, and above all, we have this story that started in 2015 with a kind of trust. The Italian government and Italian cooperation put trust in UNIDO, launching the first coffee private-public partnership project. We started with Caffè during the Expo in Milan in 2015, and this project started a working method. It set fair dialogue between the producers in the origin countries and in the consuming countries. And UNIDO is a bit of a bridge, a technical partner managing the dialogue between all these interlocutors. With this structured dialogue, then the need for identifying education as a main area of intervention has emerged. And the well-known coffee training centers were started. Everybody talked about them, so I would like to tell you a bit more about this on technical terms. The idea behind coffee training centers, as you saw in the video, began with a pilot project in Ethiopia, where in 2021 it was inaugurated. Now the center is fully operational thanks to the constant commitment and the coherent commitment of Italian government and cooperation, and also of the Ethiopian Coffee and Tea Authority. I want to thank this authority in the person of Dr. Debela that could not join us for other commitments. So we also we don't just want to say thanks to them, but we're also really grateful to them because the result obtained was also thanks to their support. The idea behind the Coffee Training Center is foundational in the ACT program. Act means advancing climate resilience and coffee transformation in Africa. It is an initiative of the MAECI plan financed by the Italian government and implemented by UNIDO in 5 pilot countries, as the Deputy Minister said. These are a bit of the backbone and main producers and exporters of coffee in Africa: Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, and Uganda. The leading project concerns training, but also it is also oriented to economic sustainability, climate resilience, and the capacity of generating value along the supply chain. The coffee training centers are based on local institutions. The ownership, the leadership, and all the management of the coffee training center during the execution of the project is in partnership with us as a technical partner and other industry partners. But then the management is left to the local authority. I mentioned the Ethiopian Coffee and Tea Authority, but here we have the Tanzania Coffee Board and the Coffee Research Institute of Ruiru. These centers have been designed as hubs. The Deputy Minister mentioned this word, and it is also mentioned in the video. It means that they are designed as open platforms where dialogue is possible, where the supply chain is supposed to transform itself from harvesting to cupping, which is the technique of tasting the coffee, determining the quality and the price for export, circular economy. But coffee and training centers are not just technical schools. They are also meeting points and places where ideas can be swapped. They are promoted by the Italian industry. They are supported with all the know-how and the excellence of the technical partners with which we are lucky enough to work, and they guarantee high-quality standards that makes it possible to meet international standards. We invest in hardware, in the centers, and also in the software, that is, in the skills of people, in human resources that are at the very beginning of the supply chain. Imagine that under the same roof we have an researcher from Ethiopia, barista from Kenya, people from different countries, and they create the new African coffee community. It is a network of a new human capital. The first CTC was inaugurated in 2021, and over the last 5 years, we have results that speak by themselves. Every year, we have 300 qualified people, and 30% are women. All qualified people found a job in the coffee industry with an increase in their income of about 20–25%. 50 of them became small entrepreneurs, so they opened coffee bars, roasters, export economies, and circular economy businesses. And there is a waiting list of students knocking at the door of the training center, which can host 4,000 students. Thanks to the Italian government's commitment, we are responding to this need. Another center, as was shown in the video, is being built in Gin, the cradle of coffee in origin. And we have also construction sites in Ruiru in Kenya within the Coffee Research Institutes, and then in Tanzania, in the Kilimanjaro area, in Campari, in Uganda, in Milongo, Malawi. And we created a network among 5 countries which establishes a shared view. I want to thank the donors, the partners, and all the supporters. Working together, we can really make a difference in the future of the African coffee industry through serious investment, constant investment, and with passion towards human capital with which every day we have the privilege to work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiara. And now I'll give the floor to our next panelist. I'm looking through my notes. Giacomo Ciambotti of the E4 Impact Foundation. So we talk about private public partnership producers, MAECI. So what does the E4 Impact does? Sustaining the development of entrepreneurship, creating revenue and employment through activities of research and of training. What is your role in the coffee sector? What are you trying to do? And why are you here with us today? Thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank Ix and MAECI, UNIDO for the invitation and for the opportunity to share our perspective with all of you. I am a researcher. I am a professor, but not about coffee studies. I actually work in the sector of entrepreneurship, stability, and strategies. Recently, in one of my missions to Kenya for a research on the coffee cooperative in the beautiful area of Machato, near Nairobi, I interviewed the manager of a cooperative, and during that interview, they told me that this cooperative, which is very successful, it was created in the 70s, and it had a lot of relationships with, for instance, Germany as an outlet market. It also produced papaya, pineapples, and other products. But then it was met with different challenges, the managing of the machineries, the management of the company brand. So in the end, they decided to divide the land of among the different members. There were 4,000 members, so they created small plots of land, and every individual farmer started to manage this smaller plots of land. The situation then got even worse because traditionally, as the president of the cooperative told us, because of the local traditions, these plots of land should be passed to the children that when they got married. So a small plot was then divided again in smaller plots. So in the end, the cooperative no longer existed. There were these small plots with small farmers who were actually living in a situation of poverty. So this is to say that beside resources, technology, innovation, we also need to have some know-how, some skills in managing enterprises and cooperatives. But this is true also in Italy. This is not very different from what we have in this country, because these enterprises need to overcome difficult moments. So this is what E4 Impact does. We are part of the University Cattolica in Milan, and we work on different supply chains, not only that of coffee. There was a big project in Kenya on coffee. It was called Arabica. We trained about 30,000 small farmers with the support of the Italian Development Cooperation, and we are doing the same thing now with UNIDO, with the executive program in coffee innovation and business. The idea is to give local entrepreneurs and managers of the coffee sector two different kinds of skills. The skills that are linked with the upstream supply chain, so processing and of coffee that add value to the product, to coffee, and then the downstream skills that concern the access to regional as well as international markets, creating brands that go towards the needs of customers that are rapidly changing, so that go towards the for-profit world. So we create bridges with Italian enterprises. And I would like to mention a few elements of development in terms of the activities that our foundation is carrying out in cooperation with other institutions. First, we wanted to focus on the integration of these value chains. In some studies carried out in Uganda, I actually found some data that are extremely interesting. Farmers that are at, small farmers that were at the basis of the production project that produce the red cherries of coffee, they have a price of about 40 cents of a dollar, with the drying 60 cents and then roasting $10. So that's a big difference, actually. And this becomes even more interesting when we talk about profits, what goes back in the hands of the small farmer, as our colleague from Kenya said. For those who produce and sell the red cherries is 5 cents of a dollars for a kilogram. Then with the roasting part is $6. So you can imagine the impact we can have if we can integrate the small farmers in the value chain. And I have studied the sector in Uganda. There is a big union of cooperatives that has created a farmer ownership model to make sure that farmers continued to be the owner of coffee, also in the following steps along the supply chain. So a network of cooperatives. And then there are two other aspects I wanted to share with you. More attention to research, as the Deputy Minister Cirielli was saying. This is extremely important from the technical point of view, productivity, climate change, which is changing the geography of the territory, but also from the enterprise point of view. How can we actually attract young people? Because young people were leaving rural areas. And I talk specifically about Africa because they have a very young population, but the problem of finding a job will be more serious in 10 years when the children of the big African families will have to enter the labor market. And then the intermediate bodies, their role. So the integration of the supply chain enables the integration of the different actors, but we also need, as I was saying a few days in another event, another kind of integration which is more vertical, so an integration of the government, those who take decisions, develop policies, down to the local communities. This enables us to have a more strategic role in terms of cooperation. So with these projects of managerial training, what will the next step be? So we need to think today about what we will need in the future, because once we have trained managers, as we are doing with our ACT program with the UNIDO, what will these cooperatives need to face their problems? What will the entrepreneurs need to invest, to attract investors, to create brands that are African, made in Kenya, made in Uganda, which become more and more important, but they need to be stronger in order to be competitive on the global market that is changing. So this is, in a way, the kind of limits that I've found in Africa. It is very difficult to plan for the future and it is difficult to meet the enterprise in the corporate world. So this ecosystem that we want to create in terms of cooperation, we are doing this in a successful way, is a very important element, but for today's producers, but also for tomorrow's producers. Thank you, Giacomo. Well, it is easy now to give the floor to Mario, who is the Vice President of the Italian Coffee Committee and is an expert in the coffee sector and one of the purchasers of the Borbone coffee. So this is the kind of element that was missing in our dialogue today, the point of view of an entrepreneur. Thank you, Gerardo. I would like to thank the Italian Ministry for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. And I say the full name because from my point of view, from the point of view of us entrepreneurs, this is a title that actually explains what a ministry has to do, foreign affairs and international cooperation. So this is the meaning, the sense of this ministry. So we talk about sowing the futures here in this area of the meeting in Rimini. And the future of coffee is obviously starts in the countries that produce coffee. We Europeans love coffee, well, everywhere in the world, but Europe particularly loves coffee. We are the first importers of coffee. But coffee is produced in some countries and then it is processed in other countries. Maybe these are basic things to say in such a distinguished panel. Astra carried out a survey that showed that Italians thought that coffee was produced in Italy. So what we want to do is to involve more those countries that actually produce coffee. Can our responsibility end with the purchase of the best possible coffee at the most competitive economic conditions? I don't think so, because if we just wanted to acquire raw material, and it was my son who's 16 who give me the suggestion, say this: if we just want to buy raw materials, take them in the consumer countries and process and add value to these products somewhere else, so we are in an extractive logic similar to the thoughts and concepts of colonialism of the past. That's what my son suggested me to say. We do not want to say that we have to change the international trade, but we have to understand that those who depend from a certain raw material has a responsibility towards that supply chain. For us, operator of the sector, this is an ethical responsibility, but also an industrial responsibility. If we want to have quality coffee in 20, 30 years, we need to take care of the people who produce it, farmers, women, young people, of their productivity, of biodiversity, and of access to fundings, so that the new generation can see a future in this sector. So I don't want to talk about a change, but rather about a transformation. And this kind of vision translates into three words: global, preemptive, and transformative. Transformative because it changes the system so that it doesn't go back to the previous situation once the project is over. And this is the logic that, together with OFI, one of the first coffee traders in the world, we developed the Mwani project in Uganda. Mwani means coffee in Busheni and Iban, which are areas in the northern west part of Uganda. It started in 2022. It should end in 2027, but actually projects never end. It involves 1,000 producers, in particular women and young people, 1,000 hectares. We want to increase skills and create opportunities. And this year, the role of women is essential. We have 20 local associations, 162 people are involved, 68% are women, and there are many members who are just already started to spare. This means giving them a sort of economic autonomy. They can protect their families and they can participate to the productive life of the community. We have 49 young people who have already been trained, who work giving services to farmers. Another 50 are being trained at the moment. We are creating 100 new professionals of the sector. We have 6 production centers, 49 young plants of coffee for the planting of a vast area of land. We have added another aspect, that is to say health protection for farmers and their families, because we cannot talk about resilience of the supply chain if an illness can destroy the resources of a family, because it can destroy the work of a lifetime. So it doesn't mean we just have to have more resilient plants. We have to have a more solid community, more solid farmers. Then there is a second word that I mentioned, global, because the future of coffee does not concern Uganda or Brazil only. It concerns also those who actually process it, who consume it, who buy it, and the institutions that have to decide for the policies governing this sector. And then there is another aspect, that of anticipating. We already know where the great challenges will take us. Climate change, even if someone do not admit that it exists. But if we talk to producers, they are all very convinced that there is a climate change because they experience it firsthand, and the loss in biodiversity. So we have to take preemptive action. We do not have to wait for a supply chain to become fragile before we intervene. So with the Moani project, we are working on other solutions, as for instance, the pollination of the Robusta coffee to create resilience. And I would like to go back to the title of this area of the meeting, Sowing the Future. We cannot ask young people and women to be the future of the coffee sector if we don't give them the tools to create their own future in this supply chain. So as I said at the beginning, we cannot just find the best places where to buy coffee in the future. We have to contribute today to create the conditions that makes it possible that the production also in future. So this is the difference between buying raw material and taking upon ourselves the responsibility of the whole supply chain.
Thank you for your very clear and concrete presentation. And if I may add, in general, having worked for 40 years in this sector, the Italian industry, the Italian companies are very much involved in these aspects of sustainability, not just in the coffee production, but in the ecosystem that is helping producers. This is also an important element of this partnership between private industry and other associations. And remember that also the International Coffee Organization, the Inter-African Coffee Organizations are also part of this ecosystem. Well, at this point, we have a very short time left. And so I have the 1 billion question. A million is not enough anymore. So we were here 2 years ago talking about a project. Now we have things that are taking shape. So if we are going to be back here in 2 years' time, what is UNIDO telling us? We will be pleased to talk about the fully operational coffee training centers. The next coffee training center to be inaugurated, we hope by the end of this year, will be in Ruiru in Kenya. And then we'll have Moshi in the Kilimanjaro region in Tanzania, Jim in Ethiopia, Kampala in Uganda, and Idilongwe in Malawi. And then we're also investing in South-South cooperation because the very managers and experts of every coffee training center should be able to visit the others so they can, well, in 2 years they will have done that, right? Yes, they will have done that, and we are going to start our first study tour of 25 coffee experts from the 5 ACT countries that will come to Italy towards the end of September. So we will be able to tell a lot of stories and a lot of experiences. Primus, in 2 years, what will you be able to tell us about the success of Tanzania?
I think a real partnership will be realized, and that the true realistically approach from the Italian government that it's the climb, is the people, the planet, and then lastly the profit. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you. Now, Harry, in 2 years, what will you be able to tell us here?
Success.
In 2 years, we'll have more coffee from Kenya. We're looking at about moving now from 50,000 to about 150,000. In 2 years, we will have more young people exporting finished coffee to Italy, to any place of the world. In the next 2 years, we are going to have Kenyan coffee farmers with more money in their pockets and looking at coffee not just as a crop, but as a complete trade, as a source of livelihood, as a source of business. It's going to be, well, drink Kenyan coffee. Thank you.
In 2 years, I hope to be sitting in the audience and not here. I hope to be listening to projects from other companies. So I hope that others will copy what I'm doing, because sustainability done all alone is not meaningful, because it is just one objective for one company, but it has to be the objective of a community. It can't just be the objective of one company. So I hope I'll be sitting in the audience listening to the projects of other companies that hopefully will have copied us, so we can be inspired to enhance our project. What about you in 2 years? I hope I'll be able to tell you about new curricula, university curricula in African universities. This is something we have already started with the Italian cooperation and also the Ministry of Research and University. And so there can be curricula for future managers in the coffee sector. I hope that the opportunities in the supply chain will be understood to be able to participate in exchange programs in Italy to strengthen the link between universities and research centers in Italy and Africa. Thank you. And to conclude, well, it is always difficult to draw conclusions after a very rich panel. Let me thank once again all the participants, the Deputy Minister Cirielli, Director General Gatti, and all the staff of the MAECI, Alessandra, Di Pippo, and the others. And, well, this is something that will continue, and success will be bringing coffee, African coffee, back to Europe again, creating employment, so avoiding problems with all these many young people that will enter the job market, and developing research. So success is in the hands of all of us and in the hands of the consumers. Every world, 3 billion coffee cups are drunk in the world. This can continue to grow, but we want coffee that is not just good, fair, but also sustainable. That's my final thought. Thank you.
Prima, permettetevi.
Let me mention this point that I was asked to read. about the support that can be given to the meeting. If you give your support to the meeting, you can contribute to building a place of hope and beauty. You will find the Dona Ora stations with a red heart for making donations. Remember that the Meeting Foundation is a third sector entity, so if you support the meeting, you can take advantage of tax relief programs when you do your rent declaration. Thank you.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito, del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te.